want to start off by first talking about the recent minimum wage increase to 1,700 ringgit. Yeah, it went live on the 1st of February, and it is actually a 13% jump from the previous minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit. Now, at the same time, the hourly rate, now this one applies to part-time workers as well as hourly based jobs. It has been increased from 7 ringgit and 21 cents to 8 ringgit and 72 cents. FYI, this is actually the third increase in the past 5 years. So I want to take back, I want to retract my statements of wages in Malaysia being quote unquote stagnant. Rather, the correct and more accurate statement should be wages have not been really keeping up with inflation. Even though they have been increasing, the increase is extremely minimal. So on the one side, a lot of citizens are happy, saying that 200 ringgit per month is quite substantial. Now, on the other side, some people are also saying that it is inconsequential over the long run if we start comparing the salaries versus how much MPs are earning right now. Now, FYI, MPs earn a base salary of 16K per month, and they have all sorts of unnecessary allowances, such as their entertainment allowance. It's already significantly higher than the current minimum wage at 2.5K per month. They also have warm clothing allowance up to 1,500 ringgit. Not so sure where in Malaysia can they find cold weather, probably in the parliamentary meeting halls. So FYI, parliamentary meeting, they get 400 ringgit per day just to sit in the parliament. And the parliament meets about 69 times per year. So 69, you multiply it by 400, yeah, you can do the math. It's about 28,000 ringgit per year that they earn just to take their attendance in the parliament. So this is what citizens are also complaining and unsatisfied about. Well, it's definitely everybody's dream to have higher wages, but we must also consider the implications on the economy. Now, for one thing, more money chasing the same amount of goods will lead to higher prices. Now, this is just common sense. Imagine if the government today were to hike the minimum wage from 1K straight away jump to 3K, right? At the same time, you have Negara Malaysia having to run the printing press. Since there is so much more money in the ecosystem right now, chasing the same amount of goods, it will inevitably lead to a jump in inflation. Voila, we're back to square one. Right? That's why you don't see the government hiking the minimum wage from 1,000 to 3,000 ringgit. Rather, they've chosen to gradually hike it from 1,000, 1,002, then 1,005, so on and so forth. And next, this one is actually more important. Now, more than 90% of businesses in Malaysia, they are SMEs. So if you were to hike the minimum wage and it is mandated by law for all businesses to follow, then definitely small businesses will die if the increase is very substantial, right? Now, the key to this is that wages should rise along with productivity. Don't just increase the wages, but make sure the workers become more skilled and more productive at what they are doing. And this is why the current administration has implemented the progressive wage policy, short for PWP, which is the topic that we'll mainly discuss about today, which is the table that I've showed you guys at the thumbnail of today's presentation. Civil engineers, they are expected to have a starting basic salary of 3.1K, lawyers 3.5K, so on and so forth. Now, there are a lot of things that are questionable about these numbers. For starters, how could pharmacists earn less than those working in advertising and marketing professionals? And I've also heard of some comments saying that this is the starting basic salary for lawyers 10 years ago. And right now, it's pretty much still the same. Right? But actually, it's some progress. They are considering that the government has decided to run a pilot program from July to September 2024, which FYI, if you look at the full list later, I will send you guys the link. Make sure to compare the numbers with your current salary. Because if your current salary is lower than these recommended figures, then you can actually talk to your employer and get an increment. Up to 200 ringgit per month if you are a new employee. You work there for less than a year, or if this is your first time on a job, you get 200 ringgit per month for the next 12 months. Now, this subsidy is given to your employer if they applied for it, and your employer will have to pay you this incentive. The next, for non-entry level employees, which means you've worked there for more than 1 year already, you get an incentive of 300 ringgit per month for the next 12 months. And the condition for eligibility is actually pretty simple, right? You look at the table, and if your salary is lower than the recommended starting pay, the guidelines, right, then you just talk to your employer, see if they have applied for this PWP program or not, and you'll be subsidized the difference every month, up to a maximum of 200 ringgit if you're new, or 300 ringgit if you're a slightly older employee. Now, apart from salary increments, the PWP program also promises an annual salary increment of 6%. So going into next year, from 2025 to 2026, right? Actually, even 2024 to 2025, if you don't see a healthy increment, like if you don't see at least 6% increment, you can also talk to your employer and ask whether they have applied for PWP or not. So how to get this increment? I mentioned quite a few times just now, check with your employer. Okay, because they will have to apply with the government. The pilot phase was July to September last year. So check with them, see if they have qualified for it or not. Otherwise, if they do not even consider things about this, or worse, they don't even know about this, yeah, that is a huge signal for you to switch jobs. Because number one, the employer doesn't really care about increasing your wages. Number two, your wages are actually lower than the starting basic salary recommendations, yeah, for all the jobs over here. Okay, so it's really a signal for you to consider switching employers. So let's move on over to the next topic, which is talking about the medical insurance premium. So recently, Emir from the Millennial Finance posted that his AIA premiums increased from 260 to 313 ringgit. Now, this is a staggering 20% increase. I'm pretty sure that the majority, or if not some of you at least, in the audience today have also experienced absurd increases. Maybe above 20%, some 40, 50, or even 60%. But actually, Bank Negara has announced 4 temporary measures to curb this increase. First measure caps the medical claims inflation to less than 10%. And any increases will be spread out from 2024 to 2026. Which means if your active policy, you're experiencing suddenly like a 40, 50% increase, well, you can actually talk to your agent, because the increase is not supposed to be more than 10%. And it is actually supposed to be spread out over the next 3 years. Now, this one is expected to benefit at least 80% of policyholders, except for those people who are moving to a new age band. Now, let's say 20 to 24, you're moving to 25 to 29. And that's a new age band, right? So therefore, the medical inflation cap, yeah, it doesn't cover that. Okay. Next one, there is also a temporary pause in premium adjustments due to medical claims inflation for policy holders who are aged 60 years old and above. So let's say you currently have a parent right now, or even your grandparents, right? They are covered under the minimum plan. They are not supposed to see any adjustments, any price increases in their medical premiums for 1 year. Okay, except if they are moving to a higher age band, similar to policy number 1, i.e. 60 to 64, moving to 65 to 69. Now, this third measure over here, reinstatement of policy, allows you to buy back your previously lapsed insurance. Now, let's say earlier during the year, you decided to terminate your AIA, Prudential, or even X insurance because it's too expensive, right? Well, right now, you can actually contact back your agent and ask to buy back your current policy with all of these new measures, i.e. less than 10% increment. Those 60 years old and above who are covered under the minimum plan, they're not supposed to experience any price increase for 1 year. Okay. So finally, alternative MHIT products. Now this one is to be provided by the end of 2025. So let's say this year you plan to terminate your policy, right? By the end of the year, you want to change to a different provider. Well, actually, your current provider is supposed to provide you alternative products that are either priced the same or lower compared to your current premiums without any additional underwriting or switching costs. So just a quick guide on buying insurance. I've talked about this a few weeks ago. But if you're single and no dependents, let's say you're 20 to 35 years old, right? You don't have any kids, your parents are fairly well to do, you don't need to give them a large amount of income every month. Well, actually, you starting with medical insurance is more than good enough. Okay, and make sure you don't spend more than 5 to 10% of your monthly income for all of your insurance coverages. Okay, so if you're earning 4K per month, the maximum that you can spend is about 400 ringgit. And actually, spending 400 ringgit per month on medical insurance alone is already considered on the high side. You can get significantly better coverage for less than half of the price. Okay, you just got to be able to spend some free time and look for some of the products online. Okay, so coverage 2 to 4 times your annual income is decent. This one is actually pretty debatable because it depends on whether you have a history of critical illnesses or not. And let's say if this family has an unfortunate history of cancer, right, then you might want to consider other insurance products as well, yeah, such as critical illness coverages and an increased coverage for your medical premiums every year. So room and board is 2 to 300 ringgit per day. That's the current price for hospitals in the Klang Valley right now. Important to have a cashless policy so that you'll be able to be admitted to the hospital without paying a single cent. Rather than you pay first, and then after that, you fill up a reimbursement form, then the company pays you back, which in some cases will take some time or even they will deny your cases. Most importantly, buy insurance for protection, not investment. You don't use a refrigerator to cool down your house. Yeah, this is the most important thing. So I'm not trying to talk bad about insurance agents, but they have a lot of KPIs to meet. So it is natural for them to push more products to clients and customers, right? They want you to buy various different types of products that you may not even need. Yeah, such as, oh, medical insurance not enough. You must have critical illness plans. You must have life insurances, right? You must also have some insurance for your retirement because these days EPF money is not enough to retire. This is when they start to sell you investment-linked plans. Now, a lot of investment-linked plans, short for ILPs, they don't keep track of inflation, right? Okay, because their fees are extremely high. That is why after tonight's talk, or tomorrow if you have the time, give your agent a call and ask them whether your current insurance plan is linked with any investments or not. If it is, check what sort of products that the investment is investing in, specifically what asset, and what are the historic returns. Because if the historic returns is not even comparable to EPF, which delivers 5.5% per year, or worse, doesn't even keep track of inflation, then actually you're just throwing your money into the drain every month, right? You might as well use that extra money directly, voluntarily contribute to EPF at the same time you'll get your tax reliefs. Okay, so something for you guys to consider. So moving on to the next topic, get your flu jabs, guys, because right now influenza is becoming a huge problem. Yeah, recently, there is this Taiwanese actress. She unfortunately passed away due to her catching the influenza in Japan. And there's also another Malaysian forced to pay 15K per day after contracting the same virus in Japan as well. And now the situation in Japan is pretty dire. Japan, from September 2024 to January 2025, they recorded 9.5 million cases. Last week of December alone, they recorded 317,000 infections. Yeah, so if you have trips scheduled for the next few weeks, as quick as possible, you want to schedule a jab, a vaccine at least. Okay, or if you have a history with illnesses, maybe this family has history of asthma or whatsoever, you might want to consider postponing your trip. Because right now is peak flu season. Yeah, typically during cold weather from December until February, that is when the flu season hits. And then it starts to go down in May, June, July, so on and so forth. So you might want to postpone your trip until then. So the cost for influenza vaccine actually is not very expensive, generally less than 100 ringgit. But most of these hospitals that I list here today is actually sold out already. So you might want to spend the next day or two to call about 5 to 10 clinics. Yeah, if you don't manage to get a vaccine, then you may want to seriously consider postponing your overseas trip. Okay, yeah, so really stay safe out there, guys. Shout out to all our gatherer members: CH, Andrew, Wendy, Alex, CC, Urshad, Caveman, Kelvin, Tommy, Jinkang, Adrian, JS, Wenyan, Duhan, Sufi, Faris, Alan, Jackson, Raizan, Hudson, Jeffrey, Lukman, Jack, YC, Kartik, Arif, Jindan, Leanda, Adam, Ashley, Sean, Jason, Putra, Alvin, Jiachen, Audrin, Chai Wei, Fami, Kimip, Justin, Michelle, Arif, Aisha, and Chi Sing, as well as all of our learner members. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining. I will see you guys in the next session next week. Bye. Good night. Stay safe.